You're tuned in to Chromebooks Today, the podcast where Chromebook news and views collide. If you need the show notes or just want to say hi, visit us at chromebooks.today.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Chromebooks Today. My name is John Oliphant, and joining me every week is Mr. Craig Tumbleson. There is a member of us missing, Mr. James Welbus, but he's had to step out this evening, and he'll be back either later in the show or maybe next week. I'm not sure. But Craig, we've been off for 3 weeks, I believe, 3 whole weeks. Why is that, Craig?
Well, I think we all can have our own theories. It's kind of a little up to interpretation. Personally, I like to think that we were preempted by reruns of March Madness, but I think it's up to the viewer, John. It's up to the viewer to envision what the three of us were up to and why we're missing an appendage in the form of James. Who knows what James is doing? I don't know what James is doing. He could be fighting a lice epidemic in Africa or in America in his home. I don't know what he's up to, John. Do you?
He could be fighting lice. I know that I just had to run out because I was fighting gravity as my daughter fell out of her bunk bed. So there's a lot of fighting going on here, Craig. But no, there was a 3-week hiatus, and March Madness, is that a sports joke, Craig?
It was an attempt at a sports joke, John. I'm pretty sure it bombed, but that's okay because the great thing about podcasts is I don't have to listen to the audience feedback.
That's absolutely true, Craig. We don't listen to feedback, do we? No, of course we do. We didn't mean to be off for 3 weeks, but of course we just got caught up in some stuff. To be honest, the news was a little bit light, but we have been able to pull together some information this week, as well as there was a little bit of Google I/O that happened. Craig, real quick, I know we got a couple of news articles, and honestly, none of them are Google I/O related. Really quickly, because it has passed. The Google I/O has been and gone. Real quick, just your impressions, maybe something that you thought was earth-shattering, jaw-dropping about Google I/O 2015?
Well, I found their learning networks very interesting. Their layers of learning networks and how they're basically able to detect things from contextual information and recognize objects and provide information on them. And Cardboard. I thought it was interesting that they dedicated the amount of time that they did to Cardboard because I have one and I love it. My favorite thing is to take photospheres and then drop myself into it and then hand the cardboard to someone else and say, hey, check this out. I was in my creek. There was an island or something. You're on the island. And then watch them try to walk around and start bumping into things. That's one of my favorite hobbies, John. So I found it interesting, especially the education spinoff. Basically giving these things little pieces of cardboard with a phone or tablet in it to schools and letting them take virtual field trips. I think that's an amazing opportunity, and it's a good way to get kids engaged. So I found that to be exciting. And of course, Google Now on Tap is going to be amazing when we finally get it. And the tweaks to Android M, I'm looking forward to the permission controls and stuff like that. So, but as far as Chrome OS is concerned, there wasn't anything major. I don't think that we should have expected anything major, though, because we see things coming down the pipe 12 weeks in advance on the regular. So we don't get a lot of surprises with Chrome, for better or for worse.
Well, we get surprises every 4 weeks, right? like the waffle turning into a magnifying glass, things like that. That's where we get our surprises. It's on the daily almost. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that. There wasn't much Chrome news. I did watch, live and took it all in. I agree with you that the cardboard thing is actually pretty fascinating just because you have Oculus Rift, which is now owned by Facebook. You have Samsung coming out with their huge, apparatus for your face. I don't want an apparatus for my face, Craig. I want $30 worth of cardboard, a couple of lenses, and my current phone, and I'm good to go, right? That's what I found really cool, and I think that you hit the nail on the head with the whole education piece and making it low cost, so that way you could VR would become inexpensive, and that's really what it should be. I kind of like Google's approach. Some people said, "Oh, this is just throwaway stuff for Google. Like, what are they doing?" But for them being able to host the the 3D environment on YouTube already. So they already have a platform to share out the content. They talked about the distribution and the creation of the content by using their apparatus and cameras and everything like that they're going to make low cost. So it's pretty neat. I mean, if you think about it, a museum could easily build the apparatus and film things like the inside of their museum, or, you know, when you go to like somewhere like, you know, some estate, like, you know, for instance, Mount Vernon's right near me here in Baltimore, just south of here, you got Mount Vernon. And so, you know, home of Thomas Jefferson, you know, take a tour, right? So, or was that Washington? I think it was Jefferson. Now I'm getting it all mixed up. Anyway, so my point is that Google took a different approach, and using existing infrastructure like YouTube, using something like Cardboard and phones that are already out there. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think the contextual, the on tap, Google Now, that's pretty interesting too. They also talked about the Internet of Things. I believe that they're going to use Android for their version of the Internet of Things.
Sort of.
No.
It was announced as Android, but keep your eyes open because the Chrome team is heavily involved.
Well, listen, here's the thing. So you've got the Internet of Things, you've got Ubuntu, and I'm not going to get too far into it, but you've got Ubuntu's got Ubuntu Core coming out. You've got Core OS out by some other group that's not Google, which is really just Chrome OS, the back end of it. And so that way they have that same awesome functionality though of being able to flip flop the entire base image along with the drivers for things like network cards and things like that, and the stacks inside. So that way, whatever you've laid on top, you know, it all makes sense, especially for the Internet of Things, because one of the Internet of Things problems is no one's going to fix it. 12 years down the line, your refrigerator is still connected to the internet, and it's got a huge hole because it's using OpenSSL from 5 years ago. So if you can get it updated easily, especially the core, and then any packages through Docker or something else like that. So it's just another company. And I know that most people don't find this annoying, but I wanted to be like, when they mentioned it, I'm like, can we just say Linux? Because I know you're ripping off, like you're ripping, because they're like, oh yeah, we're going to rip out the Java piece, and but it's going to be Android. You rip out the Java piece, it's just Linux. It's just Linux.
Sort of. It is Linux, but okay, so I don't have any inside information here. But when we first heard the codename Brillo, I went digging on the Chromium tracker to see, what's there. And there is a surprising amount of information, including Brillo board overlays right alongside Chrome OS board overlays, using the same update tools. Chrome OS is now being optimized for very small amounts of disk space and RAM, like micro size, like 64 megabytes of RAM, and disk space that would fit on literally like flash storage media, not even solid state, but just flash media. So it's Android officially, but the Chromecast is Chrome branded and Android software. I feel like this might be Android branded with Chrome software. I don't know. And the Chrome team's hardware lab has definitely been doing some testing for this. So I don't know exactly where the line in the sand is drawn. Google probably doesn't even know. This may just be the result of convergence. Just kind of natural convergence over time. But I would not be surprised if, as we get closer and we start digging in, if in large amounts this is more Chrome than Android.
Yeah, and I sound all uppity about it in my Linuxiness, but it is a good thing, right? It is because they're taking the same approach as the other teams, and you'll be able to update. So I mean, it's a good thing. I just the whole I don't know, like someone's trying to light on Linux because it's all Linux. But anyway, it is good news though, and I think the Core OS team. It's interesting. I wonder if they've brought anything from the Core OS team, because the Core OS team's done a great job on the server level. I wonder if they just took their own stuff. But anyway, we'll get off that because that's a little bit too geeky. it's almost too geeky for me. I start to like nod off. Craig, what else is going on out there? What's going on with the stable update that just popped out?
Yes. So June 1st, while we were off air, The stable channel for Chrome OS got an update to milestone 43, John. It's 43.
43?
Yes, which is a very impressive number for reasons, I'm sure.
Isn't that the answer to everything or whatever?
No, it's 42. 42.
Oh, we missed that? Did Francois have a post?
I'm pretty sure we commented on that at the time. And if we didn't, we provided a disservice to everything that the internet has ever stood for.
I was going to say, we should be shot. Gee.
Yeah, shot would be an understatement, I think. So just covering this, the highlights for milestone 43. An autofill setting for credit cards from Google Wallet. I've heard a few people ask for more information on this. I'm not sure if it's actually active yet. And I'm not sure what it means when you factor in Android Pay, because we know that's coming. So I don't know if Android Pay is going to replace Google Wallet in terms of Chrome integration or what that's going to end up looking like. But we'll get to that when milestone 64 comes around and we're dealing with it. Milestone 43 also enables OK Google okay, it just started. I will never get used to that. It enables the Google/OK hot wording functionality on the new Chromebook Pixel, which is what I'm using, which is why it popped up, no matter what screen you're on, which is kind of neat. It brings physical keyboard autocorrection, which I am starting to get used to, but I'm still finding pretty annoying. Now, enabling that requires going into some settings and tweaking some things, and you can select between turning it off, modest, or even aggressive autocorrection, depending on your personal preference. And lastly, it brings some material design for the virtual keyboard, which I have not checked out yet, but I'm sure looks great. But I think those are the highlights of the Milestone 43 release. And so far, I haven't seen any major complaints, but I do know that the team has pulled the update for the Asus C200 Chromebook. They say that they caught a bug last minute. I don't know the details. But if you own one of those devices and it says it's up to date on Milestone 42, you don't have a problem. That is to be expected.
So, Craig, speaking of catching bugs, Mr. Welbus has joined us.
Hi, John.
The wonders of having children, my friend. We just talked. We did briefly explain your absence, not for the past 3 weeks. We think you were just being lazy last 3 weeks, but
excuse
welcome.
me. I've been available. Ish.
That's what I'm saying. Well, welcome, sir. Craig was just talking about the Android Pay versus the Wallet Pay. Is it just a rebranding, James?
Here's the thing, John. I have no clue. I was actually just wondering myself what the difference is between Android Pay and Google Wallet. And so I look forward to listening to this episode later and finding out.
Craig, I'll give you a chance to say hello to Mr. Wells, but I do have a question for you. Is Android Pay a protocol and the wallet is a service?
Well, I want to quickly clarify. I don't need an opportunity to say hi to James. We're not that close. I think I'm not sure. They didn't do a very good job on stage of clarifying what the role of each brand was or what the futures of either will actually be. And I've actually heard that they're trialing something new called contactless payment, which is just walking into a store, picking some items up, going to the cash point of sale system, and saying, "Hi, I would like to pay with Google," and it happening. So I have no, this is real, and I will throw a link in the show notes. I have no idea what the future of payments hold. I just want to pay with my watch using NFC. How come Apple can do it and we can't?
Yes. Good old Apple. Hey, competition's awesome. So, well, all right. So, that we really don't know. I think what you to the point, we all saw I/O, we all saw the presentations. We don't know. We don't know if it's a protocol service. Where's Google Wallet going?
Well,
Yeah, what's that?
in my vast knowledge that I just gained reading an article on Gizmodo 30 seconds ago, it would appear as if Android Pay is basically the same thing as the Google Wallet Tap to Pay. It's apparently easier to use than Google Wallet, which is cool because Google Wallet was pretty darn easy to use. With Google Wallet, you needed to enter your PIN either ahead of time, or if you hadn't entered your PIN yet, when you tapped at something, it would ask you to enter your PIN. I would always just enter it ahead of time if I knew I was about to use it. Apparently with Android Pay, it's built right into the operating system, so there's no app you need to download. And there's no PIN. The only requirement is that your phone is unlocked. Gizmodo is assuming, and I think they're probably right, or at least they mentioned that Google Wallet was a little confusing because not only did it offer tap to pay, but it also allowed peer-to-peer money transferring similar to PayPal. So it could be that Google is just trying to separate the two and make it less confusing, because some people know Google Wallet is a way to pay for things or send friends money. Other people know it as a way to pay for things by tapping terminals. It could be that Google is just trying to simplify the process, build the service right into the operating system, and then Google Wallet can just be the Google version of PayPal. Android Pay will be Android version of Apple Pay.
Sounds good. I'm down. I guess. I don't know. Maybe. I've never used the Google Wallet through my phone, so.
What?
I reject all of that.
I've got a Pebble watch, so I don't. It's not as fancy as Craig's.
I think, honestly, it's too confusing. I can understand baking one into the operating system and letting one be kind of a user opt-in or user preference system. We don't need two, though. I mean, realistically, payments are something that people are always cautious about anyway. They don't want their information to be in the wrong hands, and they want to be very careful about knowing who they're giving what. So I think simplifying the process and making it stupidly simple with one brand, one interface, one method of payment is ultimately the best for the consumer. So hopefully we'll end up with that, whichever brand, whichever version, whatever implementation it ends up being, that would be what I think we should end up with. Personally, I like the Google Wallet brand better than Android Pay, but it's all preference.
I know. It's all in the marketing, man. It's pissing me off. Anyway. All right, so listen. Mediatek's Chromebook with Craig's ever favorite, always reversible, doesn't matter which way you put it in, USB Type-C.
Wow.
You almost got through that, John. I'll give you credit.
He's going to go for 10 minutes now.
So, yes, this is a new Chromebook spotted from Mediatek, or it's running. Yeah. So Mediatek showed a non-working Chromebook, with a quad-core processor, but with a USB Type-C port. Now, the gist of this is that it's a low-power Chromebook. It supports 4K video, and it has USB Type-C. Now, the benefit here, the takeaway, is that when the Chromebook Pixel 2 first launched, and we had the media coverage, basically comparing it side by side with the MacBook that was announced a few days earlier, the only two devices on the market that would support USB Type-C, a lot of people were suggesting that it would take a long time for USB Type-C to start kicking in and start showing up on low-cost, readily available laptops. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. This shows that a cheaper laptop is capable of shipping with this port. It's not shipping yet, but it's on the track. So it's anyone's best guess how many production cycles we're going to have to go through before we start seeing Type-C from Acer, Toshiba, and the other major brands. But I'm hoping that it's going to be coming later this year, early next year. I don't want to buy a Chromebook without Type-C.
Is there any word on whether or not the consumer version will be working or non-working?
That's a good question, James. My assumption, my wild assumption here, and note that I am not affiliated with Mediatek whatsoever, and I'm not qualified to speak on whether or not laptops in general work when they're being sold. But my guess would be about as well as any other Chromebook.
All right, you heard it here, folks. The new Mediatek will be a working Chromebook, says Craig Tumbleson.
Can we change that to an anonymous source?
Yeah. You're the one that edits this, so it's up to you.
I'm confused. What's a non-working? I mean, I'm confused by that question because I didn't know if you meant like the whole Chromebook didn't work, or you meant the port is going to just be like empty, or like it's just going to be this hole with nothing connected to the motherboard. I'm confused.
From Dinson's article, it looks like it was probably it happened during a trade show, so it was probably a pre-production like demo model, like a mock-up type thing that they quickly put together. The internals and components, they just didn't go through installing Chrome OS, and
it's probably made out of clay.
Well, they have a picture of it, and it doesn't look like clay.
Well, it's painted.
Here's the other thing.
Car.
You know, that doesn't sound right, but I don't know enough to say it's wrong.
Secondary subject matter. The Rock chips. Is it the Rock chips? The newest chip, the ARM chip.
I think it's going with the Dwayne Johnson chip now.
Not the Rock. Exactly. So you're saying that this chip, if it gets mad enough, it's going to shine it up and turn it sideways. I understand. But apparently, actually, it has done that in performance-wise. Apparently, of the articles that I've read, no, I don't have any, actual like links, but of the articles that I've read a couple times, they're actually showing their performance levels to be like right up there with the higher end ARM stuff from NVIDIA, and even close to the Broadwells that are low powered.
You mean on par with like Bay Trail, right?
I'm sorry, you're right. Bay Trail.
Yeah. Now
Broadwell.
Right, you're right. Let's not get carried away. So, listeners that don't know what just happened, Broadwell is currently like the middle-of-the-road processor from Intel, the middle-of-the-road series. Bay Trail is the lower power, lower spec, and it's most comparable with what comes out of ARM. So these devices will provide adequate performance, and specifically this MediaTek device claims that it'll be able to support 4K video. Now, I don't think we're going to see a 4K screen, but if it could do 4K by Type-C out to a 4K monitor or 4K television, I think it would be a cool party trick.
That's kind of true. It's like saying that the cheap monitor that you hooked up to the server, that's just to check things, but really you got a powerhouse under there. like really, that's kind of weird. All right, so that's pretty cool. Type-C and some really powerful ARM chips coming down the road. Next up, you can now access Samba shares on a Chromebook. Hey, look, that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool, man. Craig, what's the dealio?
Why do you always throw it to me?
To give James read the article.
So, okay, James, please enlighten us.
What? I'm supposed to read the article while you talk. So Samba shares is a thing, and you can now access it through the Files app on a Chromebook.
And that's the gist, ladies and gentlemen. So this has been a feature request since the beginning of time. Samba and SMB and a few other similar / related networking protocols are popular for Linux and Windows shares, network shares. So this has been a feature request on the Chromium tracker since essentially when Chrome OS first appeared. People have always wanted to be able to pull up their network shares of their existing media servers or whatever else they have on their home network and access that on their Chromebook. And this comes via an unofficial extension that hooks right into the Files app and will drop your home network share right into the Files app. So you can quickly pull up videos, whatever you need to do. It's free as far as I'm aware, and it works using the File System Provider API that Google released a few versions back. And I believe this comes from the same extension and app author as the OneDrive Files app extension and the Dropbox extension. So this developer knows their way around the File System Provider API, and they've done quality apps in the past. So if this is the type of thing you're looking for, give it a spin and make sure you give feedback to the developer so they know if they need to tweak some things, improve some things, or just generally fix some things.
Thank you, Craig, for letting us know. So the Samba, right? So we're not. I don't even do it, right? But it's basically creating a share that's available to a Linux machine from a Windows machine, right? So Windows inaccessible from a Linux Unix machine. You set up a Samba share. It's now available. So now you can actually share your Windows machine, if you know how to do it, with your Chromebook. That's the big deal there. So
it's also made by the same guy that made the SFTP app or extension that allows you to access SFTP servers through your file manager.
There you go. Big props to him. So now the next thing up, and since we use Hangouts, we don't really care, but how do you use Skype for web in Google Chrome? Now, there's some caveats here, right? And actually, I heard this the other day on another podcast. They're talking about how Skype for the web is now available. You heard it here first, but not on your Chromebook. You also heard that here first. Is that there's this? Everyone rejoices because everyone's got Skype, and now you can use it on your Chromebook. So sad thing is that there is an add-in, which is really weird because I feel like it's. I mean, Hangouts came out with WebRTC only non-plugin needed, like 8 months ago, 6 months? No, a year ago, something crazy, long time ago. James, Skype.
Yeah, Skype is definitely a thing. I don't know. It doesn't work on Chromebooks yet, so it's very little interest to me. It works via the web on machines where you could just use it the old-fashioned way anyways. So it's not exactly groundbreaking news yet, but I think one would assume that maybe possibly in the future it won't require that plugin anymore, and then maybe we actually could use Skype on a Chromebook. It is Microsoft though, so we can never assume.
That's exactly right, and it is available on Windows machines. So there's that. Like you said, it's available for machines that already run the client. Craig, Skype, Microsoft, Big Blue. Thoughts?
Well, I think what this really boils down to is Microsoft will have an incentive to develop a version of Skype that works on a Chromebook when Google finally gets around to developing an official YouTube app for Windows Phone. Because Google's been kind of they haven't been real nice to the Windows Phone platform, and we know that one of Google's big sticking points is they develop across all platforms, right? They have apps for iOS, they have apps for Android. Sure, they own Android, but they still develop apps for everywhere else. Well, not really. So I feel like Microsoft should be the bigger person here and say, hey, we want people to use Skype no matter where you're at. So you bought a Chromebook. We don't want to lose you as a Skype user. I don't know that they figured that out yet. So I wish companies, especially like Google and Microsoft and Apple would just develop across all platforms. Sure, you can optimize for the platform that you have vertical control over, but still make yourself available elsewhere so that people don't have to be locked into an ecosystem. If I want to use OneDrive from Microsoft and Apple Music from Apple and Gmail, let me have that weird combination. Skype's popular. People use it. I have friends that use it. They want to talk to me. I have to tell them, no, don't use that. Use Hangouts instead. And you know what? Telling people to use Hangouts instead is almost as bad as saying, hey, install Firefox and use the Firefox Hello extension, because then you don't have to have any email address or any account or anything like that. It just works, and it's just the two of us, and it's completely peer-to-peer. You start to sound a little crazy. So I would really like to have Skype available. I probably still wouldn't use it, but it would make other people happy. And I think if we want to see Chromebook adoption rise, and Microsoft wants people to continue to have a reason to use Skype, it needs to work everywhere, including Chromebooks.
Totes agree. I think that it's coming, right? Right, James? It's coming.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah. Now the other thing is that Craig, you made a point about Google being like, well, we're available on everything. Microsoft is actually taking that exact same tack with all their stuff. I mean, they are literally pushing Office and all of the entire Office suite onto both iOS and Android, as well as Windows Phone. And they're trying to get you basically to make the switch, and Google will allow pretty much anything in the App Store, as you well know. And so they're like, sure, no problem. So Windows or Microsoft, I should say, is really pushing to get their Office suite out there. Now that brings up the next story. It's actually an excellent segue talking about Microsoft and Google and iOS. I have an iOS comment or Apple comment about my Pebble Watch, which I'm going to bring up a couple of more times if possible, because I think it's awesome. But iOS, Craig, here's a question. Apple, Google, Microsoft's top. Wait, no, not top. I'm sorry. I saw the word laptop. I said the word top. Microsoft to counter Chromebooks with a $169 Windows 10 laptop. How's it possible, Craig?
Well, either through science or magic. Probably one of those.
Wait a minute, hold on, James. Looks like James actually he unmuted, and I didn't mean to skip you, James. I've been throwing it to Craig a lot. I don't mean to. I love you too.
That was most likely an accident if I unmuted myself.
Because I know that Craig and I actually spoke before the show, talking about this a little bit. But what are your thoughts on yet another? I think it was the HP Streak. I think it was a 199 Windows 8 laptop or whatever. Stream. It was Stream, not Streak. No. So what? I mean, 169. Let's start with you.
Streak would not be a bad name for a stripped down, bare bones laptop computer. That was a bad joke. So, I'm sorry. I mean, haven't we already made fun of this before? I mean, it's just a bad idea with the number 10 on it instead of an 8.1.
This is under $170, James.
And there's a twist. This is rocking a Broadwell chip. If the rumors come to fruition, this is rocking a solid chip.
Fruition or fruition?
Or
whichever's correct. Let's not jump on me. We're focused on Microsoft here. Don't make me the bad guy.
He's right. Microsoft is the bad guy. What do you remember? What was the HP Stream rocking? Was that just the Haswell, or was it? Does anybody know?
I think it had to be Bay Trail.
Bay Trail,
but I'll have to look it up. I can't remember.
So that would be an improvement. we'd be looking at a little bit better performance for a little bit less money. But we're talking about running Windows on a sub $200 piece of machinery. Saying that it has a little bit better performance is like, I don't know, trying to outrun an avalanche on skis instead of a sled. Like, I don't think, sure, maybe it's a little bit faster, but you're still going to die.
Ooh. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Oh, here we go. Because they have the Stream tablet and they also have a Stream laptop. 1 second. They're still available on QVC if anybody's interested.
I don't know that that is accurate, James. I mean, if we believe Microsoft, they've made a lot of optimizations to Windows 10 around speed and efficiency.
Which I don't. Go on.
And if the Broadwell chip performs as well as the Haswell chip, you're looking at pretty solid performance and really great battery life. And at $170 versus $199 for the Acer C720 with the Haswell chip, or versus $150 for a Rockwell chip, a Rock chip, I think it's competitive. It doesn't have to be the best in the world. It's competitive.
Given the performance I've seen on Windows machines with an i3 processor in them, to run it on the Broadwell Celeron and to call it good is going to, I believe, require significant optimization, like mind-blowing optimization. I can't believe they just did that optimization.
Well, I wouldn't say good. Let's be clear about expectations here. Seriously, let's be clear, because you're looking at a sub $200 computer. Mm-hmm. You're looking at something that is essentially disposable. If you can pay $150 and get ARM performance on a Chromebook, and we know what that is, or you can pay $170 and get Broadwell performance on a Windows 10 laptop, I think they're competitive. Honestly, I think ARM on Chrome OS is going to provide about the same performance as Broadwell on Windows 10. And I think at that point, when you're looking at side by side, Windows can do more in terms of native applications. You're not going to run Photoshop. That's a given. But it can do more in terms of if you've got that one strange old WordPerfect copy or a program that you just need for some reason, and everyone seems to have one, or Skype. It is the $20 extra justified? Because the build qualities are probably going to be similar. I mean, at less than $200, they're cutting corners somewhere. That's pretty much a given. But I think it's competitive. I mean, within $20, similar performance, possibly similar battery life. I think this could do it. Now, I'm curious for John's opinion here, because I want to know how Microsoft is doing this. That's what I want to know here. When I first heard about this, I thought, okay, but how? Because we know that when Google had Haswell chips and like the Acer C720 for $199, we know that Intel was subsidizing those because they were afraid of ARM taking over the Chromebook market. The Samsung Series 3 was the top-selling Chromebook, and it was ARM-powered. So Intel felt like they had to cut their prices and bottom out just to stay competitive in the Chromebook range. And that made sense. But Intel isn't facing that same problem on Windows. So the price point pressure has to be coming from Microsoft. Now, it's possible that Microsoft is saying, hey, Acer, we really need a laptop that basically makes you no money to design, produce, and support. Are you up for that? And I'm not sure Acer is going to say, oh, yeah, let's do that. So I'm thinking Microsoft is probably subsidizing this somehow. So that leads me to my next question. How many do they think they're going to sell? Let's say for a minute that these things are insanely popular at $170. Is Microsoft prepared to subsidize 1 million of these? 5 million? 10 million? How many of these are they prepared to pay to have other people buy in order to make Chromebooks go away?
Craig, if they can... Listen, if they can charge $6 a month or $99 a year for Office 365 on these machines loaded with this stuff, if they can have their new Spartan browser be in as many people's hands as possible, if they can have the ability to have people log in just like the Google does with your Google account, except for now you're going to be using your MSN account. That's right. MSN is back, everybody. If if they get that, then they have the metadata, right? They haven't been really collecting much metadata of as much as Google has, right? Because that's Google's in advertising. That's what they do. They advertise. They give their advertisers data, right? And I understand this. I think you understand this. I don't know how many users do. It's all anonymized. Anonymous. You know what I mean? Your name is ripped out, right? So, but everything else is pretty much there. You know, I'm a man. I'm 35 years old. Got a couple kids, and I live in the zip code, right? I'm pretty sure that that's pretty much used in everything that I do, and it's relayed to advertisers, and it's, you know, all that good stuff. Microsoft wants this information too. It's the wave of the future. It's the Internet of Things. Not to use that term incorrectly, but it's it's the wave of the future, and I think that's why they're subsidizing.
Go ahead.
It's investing in their platform to be on everything, just like Google invested to have all of its products in everyone's hands, and then now is investing in a product like Chrome OS and work with Intel on subsidizing that end. Before, I think Microsoft would be willing to pay, you know, millions of dollars worth of subsidies to get an extra 4 million people to have the operating system. Look at the school thing, right? So they're offering their classroom for free. Now these laptops are only $170. They're going to try and get into that education market door and get their feet in there again, right? Mac and Windows were the winners in the education market. Now you're hearing about 10,000 units sold here, 1,000 units sold there, 500 units sold there. You know, I mean, Google's being everywhere. Now with Skype, I mean, I think Microsoft is trying to catch up because Google ended up getting Hangouts rolled out so quickly. They're offering these $99 systems along with a brief contract for only $250 a year to get networking, you know, video networking going for businesses. I mean, Microsoft is trying now to catch up to a new way of doing things. Don't lease the operating system for an ungodly amount of money to the OEMs and to people. Give away the operating system. Charge businesses, obviously. They're still going to do that. But I think that's where the money is. They're paying for the future. They're investing.
So my question is just, how far do you think that they would be prepared to go? I mean, okay, so at $170, let's say this thing is adequate. Let's just say it's adequate. And adequate for everybody. So not businesses, not workstations, not graphic designers or engineers, but for the average home consumer. So you're looking at people that are running Windows PC desktops. They go into a Best Buy and they see one of these for $170. They buy it. They take it home with them. They spill coffee on it. They go buy another one for $170. Let's do some quick napkin math, okay? This thing probably costs $300 realistically. So if it's selling for $170, it's being subsidized.
They're not subsidizing that much, Craig.
They have to be. They have to be. Because, and think about it, the chip itself, they're subsidizing that, but they also have to be subsidizing production to some amount. Because let me tell you, Acer and other OEMs aren't going to sell all laptops at no margin. They're going to want some margin built in there. And if they're going to sign a contract with Microsoft, they're going to be able to say, hey, we want this price. We will give you a laptop, but we want this price. So my gut says $300 is probably the price they're going to want. Now, I may be wrong. It may only be $250, but yeah, I think they're probably subsidizing it by at least $100. So whether that's $270, that's probably what I would think. So let's just say $100. Is that fair, John?
$100 is a lot of money.
It is.
I mean, but it kind of goes with my bet, though. Now here's the other thing. I believe that home premium is only going to be like a $110 to purchase. in a box, right? Which is actually lower than it used to be a long time ago, but it's not exactly as low as I'd have liked it. So you're still gonna be able to buy Windows 10 for like $110. OEMs, remember, are being offered it for free. When I looked up this QVC, the HP Stream, I found the 13-inch model, and it was like $300. But it's labeled with the Windows 8.1 with Bing, which basically means that they were offering, and we did an episode of this a while back, where Microsoft was offering 8.1 for free to OEMs if they use the Bing version, and that doesn't mean that it's shoved down your throat. It's just that the default search engine was Bing, right? So that, I mean, it was actually a small caveat. So, or at least what we reported on. Now, here's the other thing, Craig. I know, and James, I don't think you usually don't turn yours on much either, but my Windows machine upstairs, we've got a Windows 7 machine. Now, remember, I've had that machine for a very long time. I have Windows 7 Ultimate running on it because I got it for free when I went to a Microsoft conference back in like 2001. So maybe even 2000, maybe even because I was working, maybe it was even 2009. My point is that Windows 7 is now almost 5 years old, right? Roughly. Microsoft released a patch. This patch now puts an icon in your notification bar with the Windows 10 logo, and when you click it, it says, "Hey, Windows 7 user, you're a valid user of Windows 7. You can have Windows 10 for free."
That's how you know it's good.
Right. So are they willing to subsidize? Not only are they willing to subsidize, but they're willing to go one OS back and give it to people for free.
Right.
And now we're talking like whole hog.
Exactly. And here's, I think you kind of misunderstood my point. So my point was basically, let's just say for a second, they're subsidizing these by $100. Let's just say that. If they sell 1 million of them, they will have subsidized $100 million. If they can manage to sell 10 million of these, which is basically the Chromebook market, they will have subsidized by $1 billion. But if you look at how much they dropped on Surface, they spent $1.7 billion in Surface losses. So, is it worth $1 billion to destroy Chromebooks? And the bottom line is absolutely. If they have an opportunity to subsidize $1 billion or even $2 billion or even $3 billion worth of dirt cheap Windows laptops that are essentially disposable, just to kill Chromebooks off entirely, to make sure that no person in their right mind would ever buy a Chromebook, I think it's worth it for them, especially at this point when they're restructuring. Because now they have the money. They may not have the money for the next 10 years while they're restructuring and moving from traditional software into service. So honestly, I think it's a genius move. I think, and you're right, John, they probably aren't subsidizing by $100. It's probably even less. It's probably cheaper to kill Chromebooks than this quick napkin math. But I think it's smart.
James, is 170 killing the market? Is it going to force a Chrome OS out?
I highly doubt it. I'm not sure if it's a genius move so much as it is kind of the only obvious option. Like, oh, what do we do to kill the cheapest laptops in the world? Make cheaper ones and try to make them not suck so much. Unfortunately for Microsoft, it requires a lot of subsidizing.
Well, James, you have actually a different insight also from Craig and I, because you actually were in the store with people and you were like, people walked in the store wanting a Windows machine. They saw a $200 or $300 Chromebook and were like, oh, I might do that. And you had to talk to them about what they might be missing. I mean, if you walk into a store and you're, say, like my mom, right? My mom would never buy a Chromebook, ever. Because she's like, no, I know Windows. I got Windows 7 at home. I'm walking into a store. I have a $400 budget. The sales guy says, oh wait, no. For 170, ma'am, you only use the web. So if you're just surfing email, you're just doing things like you're not gaming. No. Well, this model over here, right, on your fixed income, you just now saved $230. Right? I mean, you did have to buy the antivirus package and stuff like that, but you just saved, $230.
Here's the problem with your whole scenario. There's several. First of all, it completely depends on what store you walk into. Because if you walk into Walmart, your mom will buy a Chromebook because she's not going to know it's a Chromebook. There's going to be HP Windows laptop, HP Windows laptop, HP Chromebook, HP Windows laptop, HP Windows laptop. Oh, this one's the cheapest one. And it has a sticker on it that says Windows 10 because Walmart is Walmart. And it even says that I can get a discount on Office if I buy it because Walmart. So your mom probably will buy a Chromebook if she goes to Walmart. If she goes to Best Buy and there's no Google specialist there to talk to her, she's probably not going to buy a Chromebook because she's going to walk in, there's going to be a big Google display, and she's going to see the price tag, and she's going to walk over, and then she's going to notice it's some weird Google thing, and she's going to keep moving. If there's a Best Buy employee there, they don't care. They're not going to try to sell a Chromebook unless they happen to be a guy who happens to be a Google geek or like Chromebooks. Best Buy employees, by and large, know nothing about Chromebooks, despite the fact that Google has given several Best Buys several units to give their computer people to test. They know nothing. And if they choose to mention a Chromebook, they're probably going to misrepresent it. Every time I go to Best Buy, I always wander over and just kind of hang out by the Google table for a while and just listen to the things that employees say when customers say, what is this thing? They don't know. They have no idea. They say, oh, it's basically just a browser. It's like a phone. You just get apps from the store. You probably want a Windows machine. So that's kind of frustrating. Stores are working in Microsoft's favor. You have Walmart selling Chromebooks as if they're Windows machines. You have Best Buy who has a big Google display because Google paid them a bunch of money probably to put it there, but nobody knows anything about them, and they always direct people over to iPads and Windows computers anyways. So I don't know. Windows definitely needs to do something because despite all these stores working against Chromebooks, they are doing well. And I think Microsoft is probably going to want to maybe try to fight Chromebooks where Chromebooks are succeeding the most, and maybe start attacking schools. Chromebooks have taken a lot of sales away from iPads. If people are still liking the idea of having a tablet instead of a laptop for schools, maybe Windows needs to consider cheap, education-focused Windows tablets.
No, I don't think tablets have worked. I think that's one of the reasons why Chromebooks don't work so well.
Well, they don't, but schools still buy them for some reason, and they're paying $800 a pop for an iPad. $200 for a Windows tablet?
Yeah, I find that ridiculous. Craig, we'll finalize the discussion with you and let everybody go. But I mean, is it the education market? Is it just $170? In the stores. What are your final thoughts on Windows coming out with a $170 Broadwell system?
Well, so I think my bias is pretty clear here. I like Chromebooks. I like them for a lot of reasons other than just the price. I think they're fantastic to manage. They're easy to use. And they're an easy sell once you get someone using one. With that said, I think Microsoft is in a position where they own the market space. They own the branding presence. When people think of a laptop or a desktop, they think Windows, especially on the low end. Because on the high end, they think Mac. Chromebooks don't have the market penetration yet to match Windows. So I think if Microsoft were to say, hey, let's make a deal with our partners and let's subsidize the heck out of these things, make them as cheap as possible, and flood the market from the bottom. Make quality devices, or at least devices with a quality chip, and flood the bottom of the market. I think it's worth $2 billion, $3 billion, $4 billion to do it. Kill the threat while it's young, get rid of it, be done with it. Google will move on, do something else. and then you go back to raising your prices just like any old traditional monopoly would.
Here's the other question. We've seen the manufacturers go nuts with the Chromebooks, right? We have, Dell, Samsung, Acer, Lenovo. You mentioned them; they're making Chromebooks, right? It looks like I've looked in here, and it looks like they don't mention, or Joey doesn't mention over at OMG Chrome, doesn't mention which manufacturer. Of course, this did come from another source that we don't trust, but it doesn't. I can't tell if there's multiple manufacturers there, because honestly, one manufacturer can't crack out 10 million in a year. It's just not going to happen.
Well, Joey does specifically mention Acer. It says their sources say that Acer and company have been persuaded to use powerful 5th generation Broadwell processors and not the cheaper Intel Bay Trail. So I think, well, see, I don't know. I really don't know, because if Microsoft if they're willing to go full force, they may be willing to say, hey, we'll buy a factory and make it happen. How badly do they want this? How committed to the vision are they? Now, realistically, they're probably not. This is probably just some random last-ditch effort. But if you have got somebody in upper management that says, hey, I'm going to make this problem go away, give me the resources to do it, Chromebooks will be gone in 5 years. I think now would be the time to act. I think this is a good strategy for doing it. I really hope it doesn't happen, because obviously I love Chromebooks, but...
Don't mind James. He apparently is making a sandwich.
Yeah.
Frozen pizza, thank you.
There are more pressing matters on Earth than just Microsoft strategy, but...
Like James's tummy. So I'll give you that, Craig. The power of the interwebs, the power of Google. Okay, James is now patting his round belly. Of course we use Google Hangouts to record, and James literally was able. He didn't mute us this time, so now we can actually hear his microwave. He's able to walk through his home, and we've now had a tour basically, Craig. Manufacturers can't make a lot of money on something that's already subsidized. If you're making $40 a unit and you can only crank out 500,000 in a quarter, you're not going to build a new plant to do that unless you know that Microsoft is going to assist you and subsidize for the next 4 or 5 years, and that way you can pay for that plant. So unless you've got plants that are dry right now and you can ramp them up immediately, which some of the large manufacturers probably do, but I think that the Windows 8 machines that were $250, because we bought one, sadly, for our business, it was a POS, and it was from ASUS, and I love ASUS. I think ASUS is fantastic, but it's like a 15-inch screen or something like that, and the screen is great, but everything else is pretty much crap. I mean, like the USB ports don't work properly, the audio driver has gone crazy on us in the middle of when we needed it to work, and I mean just went nuts. I can't even tell you how much of a piece of junk this thing is. So getting really low end stuff, whether it's got Windows on it or not, I mean, maybe if it's subsidized, like, listen, this C720 I'm using right now is an amazing piece of hardware. It is now 2 years old, and it runs so well running Chrome OS. I mean, it's ridiculous. So if Windows is able to get that kind of subsidy where they are, provide that kind of subsidy where they're actually Acer's offering a really solid platform. I mean, like solid, and not that ASUS piece of junk that I have. It could be a killer, but otherwise, we saw this 6-8 months ago, and it didn't really do anything.
Well, that's where I think the amount of subsidization really kicks in, because if Microsoft goes to ASUS or Acer and says, "Hey, I want you to build a $300 laptop that you would retail for $300, and we're going to knock the price down to $179. We will subsidize $130 per unit. We plan on selling 10 million of them, and we're going to write off $1.3 billion to kill Chromebooks. You're looking at the same type of quality, maybe even a hair better than the C720. And, these are, if they're building a $300 laptop, it would, quality-wise, it would probably, from Acer, it would meet the C720. Even if they use the same case, the same shell.
What do you think, James? Sorry.
My cat needs to snap my laptop.
Just took a bite.
I still think Craig is. I think Craig is giving Windows 10 optimization a little too much credit still. Sure, the new subsidized Windows machine has better hardware than the Acer C720, but I have a feeling that if you do anything on that machine besides run Firefox, it's probably not going to be any better than the Acer C720. But we'll just have to wait and see. I didn't even use Windows 8, so I don't even know how much better Windows 8 is than 7. If Windows 8 performed better than 7 and 10 performs better than 8, maybe we will actually have a decent running Windows machine. But I've just seen way too many Windows 7 machines that can barely function with an i3 processor. I'm not excited at all about a Broadwell Celeron processor with 2 gigs of RAM.
But I think that's part of it, though. It doesn't need to be a $500 laptop. It just needs to be a Chromebook. It needs to be able to do what a Chromebook does, which is browse the web. And at $170, it makes it a buy over a $200 Chromebook.
Possibly. On paper.
On paper. And for the people that wander into the store, they're looking at the Walmart shelves. They see a Chromebook for $200 or for $150 with a Rockwell or a Rock chip, or a $170 Windows PC from Acer or whoever on display in the front row, because that's where Walmart puts the Windows computers. That's going to be the purchase.
Yeah. Windows has that working for them. They also have the fact that people expect Windows to suck, so they're not going to be as upset when they buy a cheap laptop and it's slow and crappy. So they do kind of have that working for them. When you buy a Chromebook, we're always preaching how fast and awesome they are. So if you get a Chromebook that doesn't operate well, you start to kind of complain. So they do have that working for them.
That's a fair point.
So real world usage. That POS Asus machine that I have runs Windows 8 fine, right? But the Windows 8, because I don't have 8.1, I got 8. And it is for a product that costs money and came out of Microsoft, it is terrible. 8 was a train wreck beyond comprehension in comparison to the way that it used to be with 7. It was such a diversion, and then they had like broken things where like you couldn't. It's a train wreck. So Windows 10 though is their full reimagining of everything all together and working properly, apparently, right? And performance tuning on top of that. So I'm scared of the OS. I'm not scared of its attack against Chrome OS, because I think Chrome OS has already had does have a leg up in multiple areas as well as market penetration already. So I think Google's done a really good job. Will it be the top selling laptop forever, or you know what I mean? Like, will Chrome OS take over Microsoft and something? You know, the world's a utopia and everything's, you know, butterflies are singing songs in your ear and stuff. That's not going to happen, right? Because the Macs are still out there, other things are still out there, and you've got. I think that the world's changing though, so this whole free OS thing is here to stay, because they're sucking in all of our data.
Apple would disagree.
Not that that's a bad thing. What's that, James? With your mouth full. He literally. Let me just explain what James is doing right now. I'm on a diet, right, where like I can't eat carbs, and James is walking around where he just microwaved a pizza, an entire pizza. And I don't mean like a small like DiGiorno going on. I mean like this big honking, and like he's just walking around eating this pizza and looking at us on camera like, what? And it's just so. Thanks, James. Craig, while James chews, Craig, why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to the good folks at home?
Goodbye, good folks at home. It's been a pleasure talking into your face.
In your face, James.
Yes.
James is literally too busy having a snack. An entire
A snack. This is dinner, bro.
Okay.
I did not get to eat.
James, say goodbye to the nice people.
Goodbye, nice people and Apple users.
I love it. That's awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks again for joining us here on Chromebooks today. Be sure to check out the site, chromebooks.today, for all of the show notes that we may or may not put up, or Craig may or may not put up. Craig will do it because he is the bomb. He is our curator and the knower of things. Thanks, Craig. James, thanks. Everyone, again, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next week.